I think we both got the sense during the time at Twins Fest and the lunch and everything else that Derek Falvey expects to be making some moves here in the next month or so. And we have a lot to talk about because we're going to get into the ownership issues. We're going to get into some of the things we heard about personnel and pitching depth. There's a lot going on with the Twins right now, even though they haven't made any dramatic moves. So let's get to it all here on Chin Music. He's LaVelle E. Neal III from the Star Tribune. I'm Jim Souhan from the Star Tribune and TalkNorth.com. This is our baseball show at TalkNorth.com. We're coming to you from the Aquarius Home Services Studios, and we're presented by Giggly THC Beverages and OnX Hunt. We'll tell you more about them later. Best way to listen to this show or any show you like at TalkNorth.com. Please subscribe to your favorite podcast app. It's free. It's the easiest way to listen. And check out TalkNorth.com for all of our other shows. We have the best sports lineup in town. So let's get into it. What was the most intriguing thing you heard over the last week?
Well, we're coming off of Twins Fest here, and we're chugging along. I mean, pitchers and catchers are reporting like just over 2 weeks, which is crazy to think. Just when Falvey told us that, except for Brock Stewart, who's coming off of surgery, everybody else is on a normal progression once they get to spring training. So from a health standpoint, the Twins are looking in really, really good shape, and that's a good sign. Royce Lewis was not there because he was on his honeymoon, but he's apparently healthy. Brooks Lee and his shoulder issue that slowed him up during his debut year is not an issue. Carlos Correa's feet are doing fine. I guess he spent the offseason walking around barefoot in his house as a way to straighten the bottom of his feet. And Buxton had a normal offseason, which has not happened with him very often. So from a health standpoint, that's something that Twins fans should be encouraged to hear because we saw how the offense just fizzled down the stretch. And their inability to hit left-handers was because Buxton, Correa, and Royce Lewis were banged up and couldn't take advantage of that. So the fact that they're headed to Fort Myers with almost a complete clean bill of health is definitely a positive. And this is the time of year that you embrace positives. You reach out and grab onto those positives and hope that it turns into something great during the summer.
With Royce, did you think his problems when he went into that slump were physical or mental?
I think it was both. From what I heard late in the season, he kept talking, like September, he kept saying, I'm tired. And it could be physical tiredness. It could be mental tiredness as well. And maybe hopefully it was a learning experience for him because everybody gets to that point when you get through the dog days, he had to do rehab during the season when he was banged up. That probably, affected his mentality as well. But everybody is dealing with similar stuff, when you get late in the season. And you got to learn how to push through it. And maybe that's something Royce needed to learn. Because it was kind of a challenging year for him from a health standpoint. Plus, out of the blue, they tried to shoehorn him at second base where he had never played before. and he made it clear that he wasn't comfortable doing it in the middle of the season without any reps there at all. So a lot of it could be mental just as physical, man. And hopefully he's a better player, better person for going through it.
And we did hear, both of us in our conversations this weekend, that people shouldn't expect just because Royce Lewis is taking some ground balls at second base that he's going to move to second base. Sounds like he's their third baseman. Yeah.
Jim, I went upstairs to the WCCO area where they do the live interviews in front of the fans, specifically to listen to Dave St. Peter and Falvey talk. And Derek said that Royce is going to play third base. That's option one for him. He will mix in some second during spring training just so he's familiar with that spot. But it sounds like that Royce is going to be the third baseman going forward. Of course, that means who's at second. That could be Brooks Lee. It could be Eddie Julian. That makes things really interesting because if either one of those guys has a lousy spring training, or if Julian hasn't shown that he's made progress with the glove, that they may not break camp with the team. So by putting Lewis in the third, naming him the third baseman, that puts the heat on some other guys. And Miranda, too. They still don't have a first baseman. They may come up with one before the offseason ends. And I say that fully aware as someone who's covered the team that They signed Logan Morrison after camp open. They signed Lance Lynn after camp open. They traded for Jake Odorizzi after camp began. They traded for Kenta Maeda the day before camp opened. So the offseason kind of blends into the preseason with Derek Falvey and the Twins. So, but we're going to see how all this is going to play out. But the left side of the infield, it's going to be interesting to see how it takes shape.
Do you think they view Miranda more as a first baseman or a DH?
I think probably DH, but if he can play some first, it'll help his cause. I remember before he even got called up to the majors, I was over at St. Paul watching him with the Saints, and I was talking to a couple players, and I said, so Miranda's a third baseman, and they both went, yeah, that's the position they're going to try to have him play. So there wasn't a lot of confidence about him defensively. And if you look at his minor league career, he's moved around a lot. I think, he's kind of put himself into a DH / first base mode with DH being the priority. And here's the thing too. Remember, this guy was fantastic in June. He was on fire in June at the plate. And you're going to keep that bat in the lineup, especially when you struggled hitting lefties. If he can find that form and extend it for more than just a 6-week blip over a season, then, you're going to find a spot to put Jose Miranda at.
And the thing about Miranda, I don't think his lack of development as a fielder is really his fault. I think he's worked really hard to go from being somebody who couldn't play the field, somebody who's being at least approaching average. He's not average yet, but I don't think there's any failing on his part. I just don't think he's a gifted fielder.
No, I think glove work's not his forte, man. And I think he played some short early in his minor league career, and then he's moved to second, moved to third. I think he was in the outfield a little bit too. He's bounced around as they've tried to find a great spot for him to in the field, and it's not for a lack of effort. We've seen him out there taking early ground balls. I saw him doing early work when he's with the Saints. He has tried to make himself valuable with the glove as well as the bat, and it happens. I mean, the way this game is played, you look at every roster. There's bat first guys all over the league, all over the league, and but he has tried to make himself serviceable with the glove, and he's had some success, but definitely defense is not his strong suit by any stretch of the imagination. He's played first, he's played third, second, man. He's played in the outfield. They've tried to find a spot for him throughout his career, man. So it is what it is. They tried. Yeah.
Do you think the opening day first baseman is on the current roster?
I don't think so. Another reason why, the Twins haven't made a lot of moves here is because the way they operate, as I pointed out, they wait for the market to come back to them. There's people still out there. I'm not saying that all of a sudden the Twins are going to make a rain on Pete Alonso and bring him in. But there's some other first basemen out there too that may end up coming back into the Twins' wheelhouse. There's still some jostling going on. The Twins haven't announced their non-roster invites yet because there's a bunch of guys in the league are still holding out hope that they can get a major league contract. And that has not transpired yet. So, and that's going to affect how other players' strategy during spring training, during free agency happens as well, because now, everybody's thinking, well, I should be getting ready to go to camp. I should know which training camp I'm going to, but I don't. So the sense of urgency comes, prices start to drop, and maybe it's something that the Twins view as manageable. So I expect them to bring in more of a first base guy before this is all over.
Let's get to ownership issues, and then we'll go back to the roster and the pitching situation for the Twins. First, we want to let you know, again, we're coming to the Aquarius Home Services Studios. We're presented by Giggly THC Beverages and Onyx Hunt. And let's start with this. Keep the good times rolling without the regrets. Giggly THC Beverages are your go-to for bold flavor and smooth vibes. 0 alcohol, no bad decisions, just THC-infused cocktails, seltzers, and teas packed with natural ingredients and performance-boosting superfoods like ashwagandha and ginseng. Find Giggly at more than 500 locations like Total Wine, GM, and Cub Foods, or shop online at Giggly.com. Ready to upgrade your drink game? Use the code Giggly North, Gigli North, for 50% off your first order. Giggly, sip smarter, feel better. Also, want you to hear our colleague Michael Russo for Clamshell Beach Resorts.
Hey, have you been dreaming of a lake cabin lifestyle with boating, fishing, and family fun in northern Minnesota? Well, lately I've thought a lot about how cool it would be to have a getaway like so many Minnesotans. And if you're like me, you probably think that owning your own lakeside getaway is beyond your budget. Well, if you think lake cabin real estate prices keep going up, well, think again. This is Russo, and I'm here to tell you there is an affordable way to enjoy a cabin lifestyle and all that goes with it. And yes, I said affordable. I founded a Clamshell Beach Resort, which is located on the Whitefish chain of 14 lakes for you and your family to enjoy. Here's how. Clamshell has lake homes that offer deeded fractional ownership, and the keywords there are deeded and fractional. You own it. Imagine having 5 weeks a year to enjoy Clamshell with its beaches, pool, and lodge that's full of kids' activities. Is golf your game? There's a great golf course right across the road. Like winter sports? Well, you can go ice fishing, cross-country skiing, or snowmobiling right out the door at Clamshell. And there's no maintenance, no grass mowing, no snow removal. It's done all for you. And you can own a share of Clamshell Beach Resort at an affordable price. To learn more about ownership opportunities at Clamshell Beach Resort, go to cottagesonwhitefish.com or contact Pat Egan at 612-220-9819. That's cottagesonwhitefish.com or Pat Egan at 612-220-9819.
Hey, ice fishing's here, and it's time to hit the frozen water with onX Fish. The Fish app is the most comprehensive fishing tool for increasing your confidence on ice. Use onX Fish to find new places to fish and sort lakes by species, abundance, trophy, and keeper potentials. onX Fish also shows you hot spots, lake-by-lake regulations, and private and public land ownership information. For a limited time, download onX Fish for free in Minnesota and Wisconsin, or go to onxmaps.com/fish to get more information on the app that is changing the game on ice. Anything new you're hearing about the ownership situation?
Not really, other than, coming out of Twins Fest, everybody's asking a question, and the Twins are still giving the stock answers that there's a lot of interest. I guess Joe Mauer was pressed by Dan Gladden on the CCO booth, and Gladden prefaced, this is what Gladden opened up his interview with Mauer with. He said, LaVelle is writing that you're going to be a co-owner of the Twins, which was kind of correct, but in a way, Gladden stretched it a little bit. And by the end of the conversation, Mauer did admit that he's been approached by groups about being a limited partner in one of the ventures. So that just with what I was told, that by the end of this whole process, there would be a former Twins player part of any ownership group. So I thought that was right interesting that Mauer actually would admit that, because he keeps so many things close to the vest about his intentions. But that's the one thing that kind of, I think, I exited Twins Fest with, is that there has been at least some conversations thrown Mauer's way about being part of a group. Torrey Hunter said he has not been approached about being a limited partner, although I think he would be interested if he was approached. And I think Justin Morneau would be interested if he was approached. So that's something we're going to see shake out here over the next handful of weeks.
And I think you and I, in private conversations, you mentioned that the Ishbia name is out there. They're easy guys to speculate on, but it sounds like there are other people out there who might have as much or more money as the Ishbias and might end up moving into the lead here.
Yeah, the one thing I keep hearing, and I keep looking for reports of this, so I don't have anything to really back it up, but there's a belief out there that Artie Moreno may put the Angels for sale, and that up for sale, and that would raise eyebrows of a couple people who have peeked in on the Twins situation as well. So I don't think that's something the Twins will want to like to see happen. I think they like to have all the action come their way. And Artie put the team up for sale for a couple years ago and pulled it off the market for after 6 months. The Nationals, for that matter, were on the market for about a year, and they pulled the team off the market as well, which means that they just didn't hear the number that they wanted to hear. And if they did hear the number, they'd be back involved in selling the team. So, maybe this is just the right climate for a transaction like this. If the Twins are positive or optimistic, they have a large group of interested parties. and if other teams are kind of hovering around wondering if they should get involved.
So let's say some deep-pocketed owners come in and they want to raise the payroll, and they look at the Twins books. How high do you think, like, a median owner would want the payroll to be?
Well, I think anybody who buys the Twins, it's probably going to make a splash or make one of those good faith moves and authorize a couple signings. I would say, if the Twins payroll is about 140, maybe 165, 170. And that would be enough for them to add another quality player or two to the roster to help the cause, I would think. But we got to see what the reaction is, or figure out what the reaction is when they open up the books. Because the one thing, the Twins have a lot going for them. They have a good roster. They have a modern stadium. The only thing that's going to make people concerned is the television deal until, over the next 2 or 3 years. It's not going to be very lucrative. And can they are they willing to work with that in a league in which the Dodgers are getting $330 million from their television deal? That said, it seems like there's enough interest in the team that maybe there's people out there willing to overlook that for the short term here. So, but yeah, I could see another 25 to 30 million being added to the payroll if I was a new owner, I'd like to show my intentions to the fan base by authorizing an addition or two. So I don't think that's unreasonable.
Let's get to something a colleague of ours said, but first we want to let you know more about Minnesota Masonic Charities.
When people think of the Freemasons, they often think of secret handshakes and unusual hats, and of course, the pancake breakfast. Minnesota Masonic Charities would prefer that you think about the work that they do right here in our community. Places like the Masonic Cancer Center at the University of Minnesota, or the Masonic Children's Hospital and the Masonic Home in Bloomington. They are just a few examples of the important work that the Freemasons support here in Minnesota. As part of the largest fraternal organization in the world, Masons have consistently answered the call when it comes to charitable needs. We look forward to learning so much more about their many programs here in the weeks to come.
And here's our colleague, John Krasinski, who does the John Krasinski Show and pairs with me on the Viking Update Show on this network for True Vision Institute.
Yeah, True Vision in Bloomington. I was talking to someone at the Timberwolves game against the Hornets, and they were asking me about it. And they had also had LASIK surgery as well. And it was, the term that we both have used, and I've used it on the show, is life-changing. It really is. And you're going to roll your eyes at it. Maybe if you're wearing contacts and eyeglasses, you're going to say, yeah, right. I did the same thing. I was skeptical of it. I was like, it can't be that good. But I went to True Vision. I visited with the nicest, most friendly staff there that put me through the paces, got me to the right answer and the right option for my vision correction, and then got me to Dr. Chu, who did an unbelievable job with the surgery itself. It does make your life so much easier, not having to go in every year, every 2 years for new glasses and new contacts, spending hundreds of dollars, getting the eye exam, trying to find what's the fashionable frames nowadays. All of those things. It's a headache. And I do not have that anymore because I got LASIK at True Vision. It took me not even half of a day to recover from the surgery. And by the time I woke up the next morning, I was seeing clearly and crisply, and everything was great. So go into True Vision or go to truevision.com to set up your consultation and tell them the John Krasinski Show sent you.
Okay, so let's talk about pitching. First of all, do you spend even 5 minutes thinking about the Dylan Cease rumors, or are those unrealistic?
I cannot see the Twins giving away the room. Well, it was Vasquez, it was Zebby, I think another player, and they'd have to eat like half the contract for 1 year. Dylan Cease, I don't see it. I don't see it. Just to add someone of his caliber who's going to definitely walk, because the pitcher going into his final year of his contract, he's going to walk after the year for sure. See what's out there. So I just can't see how that transaction is going to materialize unless the Padres lower their asking price. They do need a catcher though. They're thin at catcher. So definitely. And Christian Vasquez would serve a need there. I wish they'd go after the other guy, Michael King, on that rotation. He's a younger guy. I believe he's still under control. If they want to the Twins to give up assets like Zebby Matthews and a couple other guys, in addition to eating half the salary, then I want a guy that I have some control under for the next 2-3 years or whatever. So 1 year Dylan Cease, I'll take a pass on that.
Yeah, I agree with you. All right, let's get to something. I think it was Phil Miller, our colleague at Star Tribune, said something in conversation recently that he just hasn't seen many teams that have as much settled pitching as the 2025 Twins do. They know who their top 3 starters are. They have a bunch of kids who are very promising for the 4th and 5th spots. They have Paddock, who's still on the roster. The bullpen is loaded with talent if they keep him healthy and get decent production out of him. How comfortable are you with the current pitching staff?
I'm very comfortable with the pitching staff the way it's set up. Especially if Joe Ryan is healthy and back to form. You've got 3 above average starters in Joe Ryan and Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober. And if you look at Bailey Ober's numbers last year, he did some things better than Pablo did.
Mm-hmm.
So he is a great example of how you have to be patient with the developing a pitcher, because he had barely threw 100 innings in college, and the Twins have been patient and mindful of his innings, and now he's at the point now where you can release the Kraken and let him go as long as you want him to go. So I like that aspect. I definitely like a healthy Brock Stewart in that bullpen. I think that's a big plus if he can stay healthy for longer than 2 months. I also like the fact that Cole Sands is on the Griffin Jacks development path, I think. He actually did some nice stuff during the second half last season. And you have Jacks and you have Durant. Left-handed relief, I'm a little concerned. Can Justin Topa contribute after not doing very, very little last year? But there's arms, there's talent in that bullpen. So, and I think based on projected WAR, the Twins pitching staff was like ranked 9th in baseball. So if that's something they can hang their hat on, that's a really great aspect, because if you have strong pitching, you can win with deficiencies elsewhere. It's hard to out-hit a bad pitching staff, but it's easier to win when you know you can get reliable pitching from your starters as well as your bullpen. So I think people should be optimistic about how the Twins pitching setup is going into this year, especially how Simeon Woods-Richardson shined at times last year. David Festus, Zebby Matthews getting their feet wet. You got another kid, Andrew Morris, waiting in the wings at AAA St. Paul. I just like how the staff is set up and headed. Dylan Cease would look great in the middle of that all, but once again, that's not a price I'm willing to pay.
All right, let's go to our Booze and Blues segment. We're missing Royce Smalley today. We'll get him back next week for his expertise. While I give LaVelle a chance to think about something in either category, I will go the music route today, and I will recommend Minneapolis guitarist Corey Wong, Corywong. Tremendous funk guitar player, unique. I don't know that I've ever seen a funk guitar player who doesn't sing much, isn't a lead vocalist, lead a band the way Corey Wong leads his band. Tremendous energy, phenomenal musicianship. It's just so much fun to watch. I recommend go watching live in London. You can find that on YouTube, but he's all over social media. He posts clips all the time. I just recently watched a clip of him with the great guitarist Larry Carlton doing some instruction. He's a phenomenon, and he's one of ours. So go check out Corey Wong. You got anything for us today, LaVelle?
Well, I'm going to piggyback on you. It's actually what a coincidence you bring up Corey Wong, because I saw notice this because a few weeks ago we had this whole conversation about Yacht Rock and Steely Dan, and from July 18th to 20th, the Minnesota Yacht Rock concert is going on, and you will not believe some of the people on this list: Hozier, Alabama Shakes, Sheryl Crow, Fall Out Boy, Weezer, Corey Wong, Motion City Soundtrack, Green Day, and Sublime are just Semisonic's playing too. Semisonic is a local group. We used to play basketball with those guys over at St. Thomas and the old McCarthy gym.
Yes. It was a blast.
Yeah, it used to
John
be.
Munson was the bass player for Trip Shakespeare and ended up being the bass player for Semisonic. Great local musician, great guy.
Yeah. Remember, guys, Closing Time is still like their noteworthy song. So yeah, there's a yacht rock festival July 18th and 20th in town, and you mentioned, as soon as you mentioned Corey Wong, I was like, he's on this list here. So
it's a great lineup. I've seen Alabama Shakes. I've seen Sheryl Crow. It's a heck of a concert. We're so lucky in this market. We just have such great music. And it's funny, like you mentioned, we ended up playing hoops with like Dan Wilson, who's now won Oscars and Grammys, and John Munson, who's great, and Mark Perlman from the Jayhawks, who were fantastic. And it was a really cool time in our lives when we got to hang out with a bunch of people who are much cooler than us. Well, at least much cooler than me.
And could shoot hoops.
And can shoot hoops. Yeah. Although not all of them. Not us either, if we want to be honest. Good stuff from LaVelle. Thank you. We'll talk next week. We'll get Roy back on. We'll analyze this roster. I'm guessing pretty soon we're going to have some moves to talk about as well. That was the feeling we got from talking to Derek Falvey at Twins Fest, is that February is going to be a big month for him and the franchise. We'll keep you updated on ownership issues as well. For today, he's LaVelle E. Neal III from the Star Tribune. I'm Jim Souhan. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you soon.